Hello, friends, and welcome to a windy day in Red Wing, Minnesota, but the sun is still out. And, you know, I like to be outside whenever I can in order to get that additional benefit to our asana practice of being out of doors. Of course, if I could be in the middle of a woods, I would probably be there right now. I encourage you at any point in time to go outside as well. You have a device, chances are you're mobile, right? So maybe you do your practice outside a time or two and just see how that feels for you. Anywho, last week we did a pretty darn big focus on stabilizing the pelvis and specifically on activating glutes and hamstrings, the back side of the body, and how that helps the hip joints, the knee joints, and the low back particularly. And so I had a request from a couple of people, actually, if we could please take some of that and condense it down into one of the little 20-minute videos. So although last week there was some of this in that little shorter version, I'm going to try to condense even more of what we did through the entire week and bring that into a video for you. So let's stop talking. Let's start moving. You're going to go ahead and have the blanket rolled up towards the foot side of your mat, right? And just have it ready and on standby for yourself. And then go ahead and just lower yourself down onto your back. And once you get down onto your back, you can have your feet hip distance or a little wider with the knees leaning in, either version, but have your heels a little in front of your knees. Have your arms either out to the side with the palms up. So that was 3 weeks ago now. We talked about how the position of the palms can affect the position of the shoulder blades, the upper arm bone and the shoulder blades, which affects the upper back and neck, right? But ultimately, just find yourself in a position where you can soften as much as you can and bring awareness into the body. So much of what we practice in this yoga asana practice, it's called a practice, right, is awareness. So bring awareness into your body and notice what you notice. And I say into your body, but you know, I've mentioned before that an invitation is maybe the sounds around you are what help you stay present and you're noticing those. Trying not to put judgment on anything you notice, whether external or internal, and simply have non-judgmental experiencing. Okay. Walk your feet back in if they were wide, hip distance. If they were hip distance, great, you're already there. Bring that right knee into the chest, interlace either in front of the shin or behind the thigh, either one works, and hug the knee into the chest. Notice how the low back rounds down to or towards the floor and flattens out. Your tailbone got a little light and moved up away from the floor. I could say towards the sky or the ceiling. Now take an inhale, and I want you to emphasize the belly pulling down to the spine in order to try to lift the upper body up, chin tucking into chest. And inhale, or sorry, exhale, bring that back down. Nope, I said the breath wrong. Exhale, use the exhale. Pull the belly down, 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 down to lift the body up. So that's the exhale. And inhale, lower back down. You're gonna do that one more time. Again, exhale, pull the belly down, really firm that belly in and let that be what lifts the upper body. Stay here for just a moment and bring that body down. Bring your right foot down to the ground. So just that simple this first round. Bring that left leg in, interlace either in front of the shin or behind the thigh, your choice, and simply hug the knee in. I think whenever I introduce anything with abdominals or that has like strength, people like want to barrel into that thinking that's what they need. Don't be willful and pushing on your body, right? Pause here, let the low back open, start to feel some of this piece. Take an inhale, and with an exhale, now pull your low belly down, really emphasize the abdominals to lift the upper body. And inhale, coming down. How tight did your shoulders, your neck, and your jaw get? Exhale, push the belly down. Can you soften them a little bit with this move? Inhale down. We have one more. We'll hold an extra breath. Exhale, go ahead. Pull the belly down, lift up, pause there with all the air out. Inhale, come back down. Put the left foot down on the ground and just pause for a moment in your blueprint pose. Notice what you notice. Bring the knees in towards the chest, and for this first part, you can just let the heels kind of flop down towards the buttocks, whatever that is in your knee joints, right? We all have different things going on. Cup your knees. I mean, from last week, right? I bring my knees around what would be on the shin bone side of the legs, and I hold right beneath my knees, and then I'm going to push my legs into my hands. They're hand walls. They don't move, right? And I often, you know, if you're looking at it as like there's a tug of war going on or whatever, nothing wins, right? The hands don't move, the knees don't physically move, but there's this resistance which causes isometric action, contraction in another part of the body. And I'm guessing you're feeling this somewhere around the pelvis. Now bring your hands onto what I'm going to call the side of above your knee where you're standing, right? And now let your arms straighten a little bit, and now pull your knees back into your hands. So it's a push-pull action here, right? My hands push into my knees pull into my hands, and this reflects on the front side of the body in your transversus abdominis. And we're just holding it once we get in. Bring your hands to the outside of your legs by your knees. Push out. The hands don't move, the legs don't move, and we're turning on our abductors, AB, right? Think outer hip, thigh, side waist maybe. Bring the hands inside the knees. Push the hands and the knees together. Hopefully this is becoming, you're seeing the theme here, right? None of them move or win, so to speak, except for guess what wins? Your adductors, AD, your inner groin, and your pelvic floor. Okay, release that, put that down on the ground and pause. Now you're on your own time. If you want to, we're going to do this one more time with just another level of intensity, but you can bring this in. You can hit pause and do these things again if you're like, oh, I'm really digging at her. My muscle memory is not quite there. I need to do this again to feel it. So you can go back to exactly what we did with the heels hanging down. You might bring your legs more into a tabletop position, and now we're load bearing, right? We have to carry the weight of those lower legs now. Bring your hands, cup your knees. So I'm going to bring my knees a little closer, but keep my heels the height of my knees. And I'm going to push my knees up into my hands, like I'm going up towards the sky here today. And breathe. And I'm going to keep that pressure. And go ahead and take one more breath. Leave your legs where they are, please. Put your hands above your knees where you're standing and push, pull. My knees push, my hands push forward, my knees pull back. And breathe and just pause right there. Bring your hands to the outside. Push the legs out into the hands. Keep breathing. Bring your hands inside. Push your thighs into your hands. And keep breathing. I think we lose the breath sometimes when we do this work. And then go ahead and release the hands. Bring the feet down. Resting pose, AKA I also mean it to be a blueprint pose. You're noticing if anything is shifting when you get here. So we have one more thing in this family of movement, the series I like to call them, and then we'll go to another little segment, right? So you're going to bring your legs in. You can either have the heels lower down or you can have your legs in tabletop. My right hand's going to cut my right knee. My left hand's going to come to the top part, the front of my thigh. And I'm going to push my right knee up into my right hand. I'm going to pull my left knee back into my hand. So now they're doing opposite things, right? And breathing. And keep holding that. And I forgot to say this at the beginning, but with all of this, I'm going to say about 25% pressure, right? Just about 25%. Go ahead and switch your hands. Left hand cups, right hand on the front of the thigh. And again, one leg pushes, one leg pulls. And breathe. And go ahead and bring those legs down. Pause for about 2 breaths. Now we're going to go down to that bridge business. that blanket in order to do bridge. Let me say that better. You can move the blanket back to you. I find like when I'm working with the blanket, and if you have a foam roller, by the way, you could use a foam roller, but it's easier for me to slide down to my blanket. Otherwise it just unrolls and gets really sloppy, right? So whatever works for you is just great. Your heels a little in front of your knees, your arms in closer to your side with your palms turned up. Just walk your shoulder blades just gently under you. It's not about the upper back or the back bend, so I want you to let go of that. If you can get your arches onto that mat, you're putting your arches on your blanket, right? It could be the center of the heels if that doesn't work for you for any reason. And then really firm down through your arches as you start to lift the hips up. And exhale, lower down, tapping, not resting, tapping the hips. Inhale, pushing into the arches. You're not rolling the spine up. Exhale, tapping the hips down. So it's not our rolling one, bridge version that we do. It's a lifting of the quote whole spine. I know it's not your whole spine. You're lifting up, and this time you're staying up. Now I want you to go to wherever your highest point is and then drop your hips about an inch from there. Keep pushing through the arches, right? Go ahead and see if you can't lift your chest just a little bit towards the chin. Don't go extreme with that, please. And try to keep your head center. She says she has her head turned, right? And then from there, right, I want you to go ahead and I want you to bring your awareness into the backs of your buttocks and the back of your legs. And chances are great that with this particular position, with the support of the props, you're feeling your glutes turning on real good. This is great. Take another breath. And bring the body down. Just leave your feet on the blanket. If you want your arms to go out for a second, you can, but we're coming back up. Notice the breath. Notice the backs of the legs. Notice the low back. And I want you to notice that we're not hugging our knees in between intentionally. Please do not hug your knees in. But for those of us who tend to do that, we tend to do that because we compromise and pinch in the low back. This work, and if we get the glutes to turn on, hopefully stop us from doing that. And we don't need to curl our knees into our chest. Yeah, maybe. Push down into your feet, start to lift up to your highest point, drop down about an inch. Put your awareness into your arches and really feel the arches pushing down mightily. And then bring your awareness into your glutes, right? The backs of the thighs and the low back, and just notice what you notice in that area. Keeping all of that, let the chest lift a little towards the chin. Don't go extreme. Take another breath and lower down. So now push that blanket forward, just off your mat, or at least out of your way. Have your heels slightly in front of your hips. And we're going to come up again, and I want you to imagine that the blanket is there. I'm going to talk about it as if it's there. It just gave us a tool to find the glutes. We want to find that again, right? So feet hip distance, arms in. We're going to go ahead and push our arches down into the blanket. I don't mean flatten your arches completely, right? But push into an imaginary blanket in order to lift the legs. Maybe the chest lifts a little to the chin. Now I want you to imagine that you had 8 sets of hands on your legs, like we just did moments ago. Push your knees forward into the hands, push your thighs up into the hands, out into the hands, and into the hands, as if you could do all of those actions simultaneously. Or you might have found one way more beneficial for your particular body or an asymmetry you have, then focus on that one. Take another breath and lower down. Again, try not to hug the knees into the chest, please, if you can help it. And breathe. If you're someone where the low back often feels a little compressed, compromised, pinched, overworked, etc., is that happening today with the way that we're working? So the next time we come up, I'm going to give an extra challenge, which you do not have to take. And we're not interlacing our hands behind our back. I want you to also notice that. Again, when you start to play with those lines, we don't focus as much on the lower body because we're opening up the upper body, and some of us have other asymmetries come in, right? So just leave that upper body out of it for the most part today. So again, you're going to go ahead, before you lift this time, push your thighs forward into your cupped hands, back, pull them back into your hands, out into your hands, into your hands, and then keep all of that as much as you can. Push into that imaginary blanket to lift the hips. Once you're up, hopefully you're feeling pretty stable, right? Let the chest lift to the chin just a little bit. We're still not at our highest point, by the way. Now from there, some of us are going to lift just the right heel. I did not say whole foot, just the right heel. And notice if anything wants to shift in your pelvis. So your mind's eye is in your pelvis, right? Bring that right foot down, and whether or not you're pinching in your low back. Bring that left heel up and bring that down. Now we're going to do another thing. We're going to recruit another set of muscles. Why not? It'd helpful, right? For the low back. Go ahead and traction your heels back towards your shoulders. And you're going to feel your hamstrings turn on. Now lift your right heel, and we're not bringing the leg all the way in, but maybe you lift your right toes without your hip going anywhere. Ha, ha, ha. Hey, left glutes, right foot down. Again, pull your heels back to your shoulders first. Find all your stabilization. Lift the left heel, and maybe you lift the toes off of the earth. One side's so much easier for the other than for me. And bring that all the way down. Bring the hips down. Come into resting pose. We will get into a forward fold, right, for the low back in just a second, in case you're like, oh, I need to hug my knees, and hold your horses, hold your horses. I'll get you there. Walk your feet out wide to your arms out. Let's do a transition twist, and let your legs just gently move back and forth from right to left. Any depth will do. Don't push yourself too hard. Just let it be a beautiful release. Head can go opposite direction, all the things, right? And then bring the knees back in. Bring your right knee into the chest, interlacing behind the thigh in front of the shin. Pull that low belly down on an exhale. Lift your body up. Can you pull your belly down so much that your tailbone lifts up to the sky an inch? That the crown of the head lifts up? And come on down. By the way, when I do that, my pelvis actually lifts a little bit, and it's mainly kind of my kidneys a little lower than my kidneys that stay on the ground. If it's something like that for you, that's okay. Right? Bring the legs in. Exhale, pull the belly down, and first just lift up, right? Now from here, pull the belly down even more and see if you can't lift your tailbone a little bit up, right? Maybe even a little more the upper body, and not from pushing the right foot down. Ha, 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 ha. It's not wrong. It's just not how we're working today. And lower down. Bring the left foot down. Pause. Notice what you notice. So let's do one more thing here, and then we will call it a day on this little set of practices. You're going to roll over onto your side body. You get to choose what side, and feel free to support the head with the blanket or the block. Your arm is just wherever it's comfortable, right? You're going to take that top hand. There's one thing that happens to everybody's spine when we do this, right? That top hip moves up towards the top shoulder, and your spine drapes down. Your low back kind of curves down towards the ground here, and do a lateral stretch. And so put your top hand on the hip and push that hip forward so that you bring that spine back into the elongated spine. That's its number one job. Its number two job is to make sure the top hip does not move behind you when you lift the knee. So you keep your toes together and lift the knee and bring that down. So clamshells. Go ahead and keep working on your breath. You can inhale or exhale up, and then do the opposite breath when you bring it down, right? So you're moving that slow. If you want to imagine that there's something on your leg that you have to push into as you lift up, you could even use your hand for it, but technically I believe you don't have to. You can imagine resistance, right? And something inside that you're pushing down, right? So you're using almost like those hydraulics at a gym, or like Suzanne Summers ThighMaster, but don't go 100%, right? Just let it be a little additional resistance as you lift up, right? Pushing something up and then pushing something down. Now, your hand is helping your pelvis stay stable. I'm curious, can you take the hand away, and do you still keep that hip moving forward towards the foot side of the mat? And do you also keep it from moving back behind you? Can you? And the answer might be no, because these muscles might not know how to engage to do that. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're a bad yogi or a bad person, right? Keep the knee up and pulsing up on 8, 7. But if you cannot stabilize the hip using the muscles of the hip, I'm going to ask you to use the hand. Bring that down and try to stabilize using the hand. And eventually, if we do this enough, those muscles will probably start to figure it out, and you'll be able to take the hand away. Bring the knee into the chest, grab the ankle, reach that knee down, reach the frontal hip point up towards the head side of the mat. One more piece of strength. I'm going to ask you to take your hand off of your ankle in a hot second, but before you do, I want you to reel your heel in towards your buttocks. That's your hamstrings, right? Really pull your heel into your buttocks, and then I want you to let go of the hand and try to keep your heel moving towards the front side of the body, towards the buttocks. Take a breath if you're cramping. Yep, you betcha. Bring the knees down. Incredibly common. I don't have an answer for that other than let it go and stretch it out and then try to come back to the work. You know, the answer to it would be, one of the main ones is, are you dehydrated? Do you have enough potassium, calcium, magnesium, right? These kinds of things, the minerals in the body can sometimes, a lack of. You're switching your body to the other side. And then, you know, if you have a really imbalanced vata in Ayurveda, and for some of us that might be just because we're over 60 and it's that time of life and we've got a lot of extra vata, that can also lead to cramping. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to keep your feet together. You're going to take that top hand. You're going to push that buttocks towards the foot side of your mat so you keep your pelvis neutral on this plane, right? And then you're not going to let that hip move back behind you, and you're going to keep it neutral on that, the sagittal. And then go ahead and lift the knee. Keep the hand there for now, please. Unless you've been doing this work for a really long time and you know where you're going, right? Go ahead and your inhale or exhale, lift the knee, and then the opposite would bring the knee down. Moving that slow. Don't try to lift the knee high. If you want to imagine that there's something on your thigh that you have to push up against to get the leg to lift, and then something that's inside that you have to push into to get the leg down, go ahead and imagine your resistance. You're going to turn on a couple of extra little bits and pieces. And then last piece, don't let that hip move. Try taking the hand away, but if the hip moves, please leave the hand there. Work with the hand. This side is debatable for me today, so I'm going to leave my hand on there, because why not assist the hip and help it find this, right? If I always work my hip in this position and that's where I work my strength from, guess where it's always going to go to whenever I work the muscles and the strength, because that's what it knows, right? We're trying to retrain the muscles around the pelvis. I'm going to put it very simply like that. It's more complex, of course. Leave your knee up. And again, I'm going to leave my hand on, yours can be off, and you're going to lift that up and pulse it up on 8, 7, 6. The other thing I like about having my hand here is I can feel muscles that are turning on and working. It's really cool. And then go ahead and bring that down. Bring that top knee in, grab the ankle. And first, let's give help, right? We're going to hold the heel towards the buttocks. The knee moves to the foot side of the mat. Funnel hip point towards the head side. Hey quads, how you doing today? I love you so much. I've been doing a lot of stairs lately. I've just been trying to get my glutes to engage. I have some SI stuff going on, SI joint. So this is why y'all are on this journey too. Try to keep that heel into the buttocks even as you release the hand, right? Really reel it in, reel it in, reel it in with those hamstrings. And release that, let that go. Come on to your back. Just roll over. Right ankle, left knee. Leave the foot there on a block or bring it in around the shin or around the back of the thigh. We've been talking, right, about how if I simply hug the knees in and my tailbone gets light and moves up, I might not be getting my full benefit that I could, right? And you might be, you get to determine. But try this. Push your thigh forward into your hands. Try to find that the low back has a natural lumbar curve, a little curve off the floor, and then try to bring the legs a little closer, maintaining your elongated spine. If that doesn't bring you deeper into the right hip, or it doesn't feel as beneficial as rounding the spine, you should totally round the spine. I'm not in your body. What do I know, right? Bring that down. There's no right way or wrong way to do this stuff, friends. Left ankle, right knee. I try to bring you in the safest way I know how and teach you how to explore your body and what's engaging, what's not. Bring the leg in maybe. But that's so that you can determine what's best for you. And then go ahead at this moment in time, by the way, push that thigh forward. Find the elongated spine first, the stable pelvis, and then keeping it. Maybe bring that leg in a little. And again, if you feel like that gets you more, or different stuff anyway, then rounding the spine, please, please do the version that feels best for you today at this moment in time. Release that. Come back to blueprint pose. You can extend the legs out, right, and take a minute or two here. You could stay here for a minute or two. I'm going to sign off from you today just for that, that time thing. So if you do have a time commitment, you're just going to go ahead and bring your hands together from your back today. Take an inhale. And let's just say namaste from here. And again, my friends who can stay and lay here for a bit, please do.